Welcome in, Hawks fans. Your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for another Believe in Hawks episode. Got some new information on the president's search. A big name pops up for the Hawks, and there might be a chance that could happen. I'll dive into that, of course, and then we'll get into some thoughts on, obviously, the Giannis sweepstakes are still going on. People trying to gear up, trying to create these deals ready if Giannis says he's ready to go. I'll talk about the actual likelihood of Giannis coming to the Atlanta Hawks. Obviously, I know the president role could be connected to that as well. And then obviously we'll also go into some other Hawks takes and then probably some playoff action at the end as we're starting to get to our Final Four after two teams advance already to their conference finals. I appreciate you guys coming in for another Believe in Hawks episode. If you are still wondering, I will still drop part 2 of my conversation with Glenn Willis probably this weekend. It was very not time sensitive conversation. So I would probably drop that this weekend for more content if you're looking out for that as well. But I wanted to get this episode out today just because it was a significant update and I felt like it was important to talk about. So so if you enjoy this episode, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment down below. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review, show your boys some love. Follow me on X at Brycey_2K. I've heard about people who want me on Blue Sky. I have a Blue Sky account. I'm not active on it. I, at some point, will make myself active on the account, and then that will give you all reason to actually follow me on the account. So just wait on it for a second because I do have one. Like I said, I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and let's go ahead and dive in. So, Hawks, Mark Stein reporting that Masai Ujiri for the Toronto Raptors is a target for the team. Obviously, I tweeted out on X when I saw the news that this could potentially be a major shift, that this was something they were able to pull off. If they were able to get Masai Ujiri, that would kind of indicate something big's happening. And so I think a lot of Hawks fans, out of everybody that they've announced, a lot of people would love to have him on this team. And I was listening to Jake Fisher, who was giving more of an insight earlier today on Bleacher Report about the situation. And he mentioned that there could be a path because currently in Toronto right now, I think the GM's name is Bobby Webster. There have been some workings, some intel coming out of Toronto that basically they're slowly shifting the team to be Bobby Webster's team, not Ujiri's team anymore. So obviously, if he's slowly losing decision-making power and things of that nature, that could obviously create an opportunity for him to maybe look in a different direction. And then the Raptors are in the process of being sold. There's going to be new ownership in Toronto that obviously could also impact him. And so with those two things, he mentioned that could realistically allow him to maybe look at this Atlanta job and say, I'm going to go in this direction. This is a good opportunity for me. Let's do it, right? And then also 92.9 Carl Dukes tweeted out today saying that he has sources that says that Masai Ujiri is in serious consideration for the Atlanta Hawks basketball operations opening. And they're in no rush to hire a basketball op, which Jake Fisher also repeated on his segment. The Hawks are not rushing this decision. They're taking their time. This is not a decision that they feel like they have to get done tomorrow. So, and you know, the sportsology firm that they've brought in to go through all these candidates has been very thorough. They've talked to a lot of different people. They are not being hasty. They've done a great job of not leaking out information that it's like, oh, the Hawks prefer this guy or the Hawks really were wooed from this guy. I think so. Every time what we're doing now, every time we hear an update is like, oh, wait, that's a new update. Oh, wait, that's a new update. Oh, wait, that's a new update. Maybe this is giving us a sign. You know, and everybody's reacting. We've heard names from Trey's agent, Giannis's agent, Alex, I think it's Sarant. I probably can't even say his name. I just know the first name's Alex. I want to say like Sarant or something. Giannis's agent is also in the running for the job, which obviously I'll get into the Giannis conversation and the Giannis connections. But I think a lot of people are looking at the Hawks situation right now, and it's just very curious to see what the next step is for them and what they're trying to do. I think, you know, with Ujiri, I think the big thing people said is that if he gets this job, he's probably getting a lot of power, of course, and you're probably paying him a lot of money because again, it's not like he's in need of a job. Usually, this situation, you're trying to lure him out from his job and say, "Hey, we think we can give you a better position opportunity." And like I said, with what I mentioned earlier about the status of the Toronto front office construction, that may open the door for Masai to legitimately say, maybe I should go to the Hawks. And there's been teams in the past who have tried to pursue him and have failed. But this may be a year, again, like I said, with things I mentioned earlier, he may really say, maybe I should go to the Hawks. And he's a guy who's not afraid to make a big swing. He's not a guy who is afraid to make that controversial decision. He knows how to evaluate talent. He found a lot of talent. I mean, obviously, remember the Toronto team. They were number 1 seed with DeMar DeRozan. They needed an upgrade at the number 1. They got Kawhi Leonard. And then they also had guys like Pascal Siakam who they're developing. And, Fred VanVleet and Scotty Barnes all get better. And they were able to put it all together, good roster construction to win the championship. And so I think the Hawks are hoping that maybe they can be able to replicate that with them. And I think a lot of people are looking for any tidbit that says that Masai really would take that job seriously. And like I said, I'm sure a lot of you would probably agree if we could get Masai Ujiri, that would be the top pick. And that would be the home run hire that we need. And so, I think the Hawks are definitely keeping everybody, I would say, on edge because we don't know. And I think we're just waiting for that thing. But they also said that they're happy with Ansi Sala right now. People talk about what Sala's done so far. He probably was a part of some of the decisions that were made last year in Atlanta, some of the group conversations, the collaborative decisions they've made. He was Bob Myers' right-hand man in Golden State, guy to start in San Antonio. And so he's a guy who everybody seems to always have positive things to say. And they're allowing him to operate as he is the lead guy. They've still been talking to draft prospects with the 2 picks they have. They've still been going about the process of that he is leading the charge, which I think is the correct move. They don't need to hold things up because we're trying to see if we're going to make this decision. And I think also it gives him a chance to just kind of, like I said, operate, and maybe he proves something, shows something to the front office, shows something to Tony Ressler, and allows him to just continue to just work. So, because they really do care about the partnership with him and whoever they bring in. They do not want someone who's going to just not listen to him. But with how respected Sala is in the league, it seems like that actually could help the Hawks hire a person because it's like he's respected, he's liked, he's a salary cap strategist expert. And so some people may look at that partnership and say, he's probably the right type of guy that I want if I'm going to be going into these rooms talking to him about the direction of the team. So, that's kind of where we are with that update. Listen, if they get Masai Ujiri, I'm happy. And I understand that something big's coming. But I also, this transitions me into my next topic. Obviously, Giannis has obviously been the dream of everybody's eye, right? Because there's that report that he's legitimately open to potentially asking out and open to other places. And so people are trying to get their dream deals ready, packages ready to go get Giannis, right? Obviously, the Hawks talking to Giannis's agent as a finalist is a huge deal because you would assume if that was the direction they wanted to go in, is that just an absolute Giannis is coming to Atlanta type situation? Masai Ujiri has connections to Giannis. Danny Ferry has connections to Giannis. And so people are trying to figure out with these guys, all these connections to Giannis, is this the Hawks really secretly saying, we want Giannis? We're going to go for Giannis. And I think one thing we have to keep in mind with that is Giannis still has yet to say, I'm asking out. I think a lot of people are what we do right now is we're judging his situation and we're trying to decide for him. Oh, I leave. Oh, he's leaving. But Jake Fisher also talked about it today, and he was like, people close to him still are skeptical that he'll ask out because he loves Milwaukee. He loves being the center of the franchise. He's very loyal. And I think some of the things he's done the last couple of years has been more about just making sure Milwaukee doesn't get comfortable. Don't just get to this point of we don't need to keep making moves and being aggressive. I think he just did it to light a fire under the front office to stay aggressive, to try to continue to build this team out and try to compete. And so some people are wondering, to be honest, will actually say, I want out. And obviously the Hawks are a team that's being mentioned in some of those, discussions of a team that maybe Giannis could consider. That's why, again, I think so many people are looking at who the Hawks hire because they feel like if we get somebody with a connection to him, that could increase our chances of acquiring him. But if Giannis doesn't ask out, regardless of his Ujiri, Ferry, Giannis's agent, I think Calvin Booth and Monty McNair are still in the running as well. They all have to have some type of backup plan. They all have to have another plan in case that doesn't happen. So that way, it's not just, we put all our eggs in one basket. Now that's not going to happen. And I know that's been a very big topic of discussion with people about should the team run it back? Should the team be aggressive and trade the core and stuff like that? Now, I can get to that a little bit later, but going back to Giannis, the one thing I've said on here and multiple platforms, my concern with trading for Giannis is gutting the team. And I'm worried that with where they are from an asset perspective and a roster perspective, I am worried they won't have enough just in terms of the rest of the team. So when they get into the postseason, it's not the regular season, it's the postseason, where I feel like with Giannis, so many people are going to have championship expectations. And if we lose in the first round or the second round, people are going to be sitting here like, okay, what's going wrong with the Trae Giannis experiment? It is going to be not more because – it's not going to be because, the stars aren't good enough. It'll be more because the roster overall may not be good enough. Because, again, in today's NBA with the CBA, it's hard to build out a very well-constructed roster if you're trying to be top-heavy. Like, you really have to have one of the best top-heavy rosters to be able to pull it off. Denver is the only team right now. I guess you could maybe even say to a certain extent, maybe Minnesota to a certain extent, but they have some depth where, like, they are just, like, top-heavy and good enough to compete. And listen, by the time of this recording, they're playing Oklahoma City. I know it's a tough game, so we'll see if they'll even be in the playoffs by the end of this podcast. I think that my other concern with the Hawks fans getting their hopes up with Giannis is I don't think the Hawks have the best package that they can give to the Bucks. And some people have alluded to this, not about the Hawks, but about picks. Obviously, if you're trading Giannis and if you're Milwaukee, you're looking for good picks, probably lottery picks from bad teams. So that way you can get a lot of strong picks to rebuild this roster. And one of the big issues I think the Hawks are in is they don't really have a lot of great picks. Remember, their picks are with San Antonio. They have this year's picks. They have a pick I think they're going to get from either the worst of Milwaukee or the Pelicans. Like, they have some picks, but, like, I don't think their picks are, like, that great, right? And so if you're Milwaukee, think about some of the teams we've heard mentioned that could be in the running for him. San Antonio, they already have the second pick in this year's draft. They immediately can say, we're giving you the second pick in the draft. You can go ahead and draft you a player that is projected to be a star, whether that's Harper or Ace Bailey, one of the two. They could use them both. So you immediately get that. And then they could also give up 14. And then you still get a second player. So you already get to add two pieces from this year's draft They can probably give you Castle. You could probably throw in like a Keldon Johnson or a Harrison Barnes. So they've already given you rotation players and immediate young pieces that you can immediately start building around with the Bucks, right? And so that in of itself could become very enticing for Milwaukee. Think about Houston. We've seen reports that Houston may be willing to give up Sengun for Giannis. You're telling me you get a really good young center like Sengun? They have picks. Listen, you could see a hypothetical where they give up Sengun, Jalen Green. Maybe you throw in Jabari Smith or Cam Whitmore. Some picks. You know what I'm saying? Because Houston has some. And I think Houston's going to be more player driven. But again, like that's a pretty good package for a player if you're Milwaukee, you know, where I think the Hawks, you obviously look at their package and you're saying Jalen Johnson. The big question in the community, is it Zach? Is it Dyson? Is it Okongwu? Who is that second core player that you're throwing in there for Milwaukee? I think I've seen a lot of Zach. A lot of people think Zach would be given away just because from a roster constructive standpoint, people think Okongwu would actually play really well with Giannis. So they're kind of like, you probably would give up Zach, and then you just have to figure out who's going to be the starting three in that situation. And then, like I said, you could maybe give up your 13th and your 29th. But as I've mentioned, my concern is, okay, so you can't go improve through the draft this year if you do it. You'll have some money to work with after the trade. But the thing is, again, this free agent class is not considered that strong. Like, it's not like there's a really deep and talented free agent class that's available for you. So how much better can you make the rest of the team if you make that move? I've said the best thing the Hawks probably could do in a trade for Giannis is make it a multi-team trade. If somehow other teams with better draft capital will give up assets to Milwaukee, maybe that can make the deal better for the Hawks, because now you maybe in this deal you may have to give up 13 and you give up Jalen and you give up Zach, and the other teams can give up some other firsts and some seconds and a player or two. Like, if you can maybe pull something like that off if you're Atlanta, that may be working more in your favor. And then you still have the 22nd pick. Even though it's 22nd pick, still get you a player, add him to the roster, and kind of see how that looks, Because here's the thing. Since the Hawks have cap room, they can absorb Giannis's contract. They just have to give and I think Jalen's making like $30 million, so because his extension kicks in. So you'll probably be able to absorb Giannis's contract and still have some money left over. The biggest thing is that you could also now allow those other teams to throw in contracts to match the money with Milwaukee. And then, boom, now you have more flexibility still to make the team better. Because that's obviously going to be the big thing, is how can you make the team better, realistically, if you make a move like that. And so from both ends of the spectrum, I think, I've always said if they make the move for Giannis, I understand it. I get it. Championship expectations are going to be here. People are going to expect us to win. And we got to just see if it happens. If they do, like I said, if they don't make that move for Giannis, they have to have a backup plan. How else can you build this team out if you can't get that big star? Because I'm not even sure if Zion is going to be available. I don't know if that is going to really happen. I think some people think they're going to, because of that report that came out after they got the new GM and said, our basketball president of operations, and be like, they're going to trade Giannis. Now I'm hearing from Pelicans people like, I don't think Giannis is going anywhere. I've even heard Giannis involved in maybe a Zion Giannis swap. I've seen that. So with all that being said, I don't know how realistic is it for the Hawks, because those are the two stars everybody's looking at. Is there anybody else that we would be like, let's give up people for? Because somebody made a good tweet the other day. I wish I could remember his name. He said, realistically, if you're not getting a Giannis, Zion type of player, if I'm the Hawks, I'm not moving any of the core. It just wouldn't make sense to move him for a B-level star. Because because that's the thing. You can trade for a star, but it has to make sense. You can just not getting a big name is not going to change the trajectory of your team. So if it's not Giannis, if it's not Zion, the Hawks are better off trying to be like, okay, how can we build this team out, make moves, get the roster construction better, get the depth better, and still feel like we're improving as a team. So I think all of those are part of it. And it's funny that I mentioned the Sengun deal because looking at my phone, looking at the notifications, NBC Sports talking about some Rockets open to trading, all-star package, Bucks may be higher on Jalen Green. Like I said, people think Jalen Green's cooked in Houston after that playoff performance. So, if you're the Rockets, you got some nice young pieces you can offer to Milwaukee. But again, all of this is hypothetical until Giannis asks out and says, I want to go somewhere else. And it's a decision that's still in the beginning stages. It's not something that's going to be made tomorrow. I would see Giannis we would probably get an actual move on Giannis's decision in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I would say the Bucks would probably like to know before the draft for sure if he's moving on. Just, again, in case, Spurs want to try to get in that sweepstakes that, we can give you these picks this year. So I don't know if the Bucks and Giannis have this deadline for this, but that's just my impression that they probably want to hear something from Giannis in the next couple of weeks. That is also the timeline that Jeff Fisher said the Hawks probably will hire a president, probably by the end of the month, if not early June. So that's also something we'll be keeping an eye on, who they hired. And like I said, now that we've heard this first report of Masai Ujiri, it'll be interesting to see, do other journalists, do other insiders come out and say, hey, this is actually gaining traction. This is growing. Remember, the combine is where all these rumors were kind of talked about because the combine, when the execs and all the scouts get together and all the agents get together and they start chirping about each other. And that's where you see, I'm hearing coming out of the combine that this is a possibility. So, I think the Hawks right now are in a position where I think if they get Usai, like I said, I'm happy with it. I understand it. It's a huge swing. I'm all for the move. He's probably the best name I've heard that they've given because I've said a lot of people feel like a lot of the names that have been given have been kind of lackluster. Danny Fury's controversial, and then Giannis is agent. Again, with agents, the thing is you just don't know, do they know how to build a roster? You know how to make deals, but do they know how to actually build an NBA roster? And is that a situation where they would rely more on a guy like an Ansi Sala to try to create the roster in that situation? So it's definitely an interesting situation and something we'll definitely continue to keep an eye on here for Believe in Hawks for sure. But last couple minutes of the show here, I'm going to go ahead and get some playoff talk. So obviously I'm aware of the Jason Tatum injury. Tough for Boston. I know with Boston going down the East again seems even more wide open than it's ever been next year, with Boston seemingly not going to be in the mix next year. So that team's out of it. Cleveland looking like choke jobs. Pacers and Knicks, even with the great seasons they're having, I don't think anybody's looking at them as world beaters. Like you can't come back and compete with them next year, which is also probably one of the reasons why there is this maybe sense of urgency in Atlanta to make a move to get up there so they can compete with those teams. But, Ant took out Golden State in 5. Curry went down after game 1. Minnesota handled business. They're back where they are. We can say that the Cat trade with Julius Randle was a win for both sides. Both teams are now full. But Wolves are in the Western Conference Finals. Knicks are a game away. They have to finish off the Celtics. Opens up the door for potential Knicks, Wolves NBA Finals. Which I think would be really entertaining, and I think the Wolves, again, just continue to, Ant continues to be the face of the league to me. I've said it to people. I say Ant's face of the league, bro. He's going against the best and beating the best. He's not backing down from it. He's doing his thing. Denver and like I said, Denver and Oklahoma City are in a dogfight. I feel like that Oklahoma City's grow before our eyes in these tough playoff games. Just you have to be clutch. You have to make the right play. And they've been able to make some of those plays and come alive. And and be able to get through. Like especially games 4 and 5 for them to get a 3-2 series lead in the beginning. So, you've seen, them grow, but at the same time, Denver, championship spirit, championship mentality, a championship team. They know what it takes to win. And so it's going to be scratch and claw. I'm not going to be shocked if this series goes 7. And listen, it can go either way. It can go either way. My friend who's a Minnesota fan, he wants Denver because he knows Ant's been cooking them. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And like the Eastern Conference, Pacers, like I said, people like to call it devil magic. They feel like got a lot of breaks, injuries, and things of that nature. But also Indiana, big shout out to Rick Carlisle and what he's done with that team. I know Tyrese Haliburton, very controversial figure, but great job of that team, how they've been able to, not to now allow last year to not be a fluke. And all they essentially did was run it back. They essentially just ran it back. So there is technically proof that you can run it back and still be good. But, big shout out to them. So NBA playoffs this year has been really, really good. Just really physical games. Obviously, the whistle completely changes in the postseason, and you kind of could see what teams can play through and which teams can't. And so really, really, happy about what we've seen so far from just everybody involved. And I'm excited to see when we get those Eastern Western Conference Finals matchups set, and then going ahead and seeing the Final Four who could become our NBA champions. So really, really good stuff there. But I think that's about it for me here at the Believe in Hawks podcast. I appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the episode, like the video, leave a comment down below about anything we discussed, any thoughts that you have. Follow me on X at Bryce_2K. And, like I said, we'll keep an eye on this Atlanta Hawks president search. Obviously, that would be the core of any community members pod. Obviously, I know a lot of people are also getting into their draft pods. Planning to have someone from who evaluates NBA draft talent on next week to talk about some of the people that the Hawks could potentially take in the draft if they keep those picks. So if you're into that, definitely stay tuned for that. Like I've said, I'm coming with the content this summer. You see who we've already had on. We're going to bring a lot more people on as the summer continues, and obviously with the news continuing with the Hawks. So I appreciate all the love from everybody. It's your boy Bryce Lewis. See you next time.